What's going on, everybody out there in the YouTube trucker community? Sean Cahalan, Christian Brother Trucker, coming at you again with a video today. And today we're going to be talking about trailer maintenance. So, I've been here with Swift for about 3 weeks now. And when you're with a mega fleet and you're picking and dropping trailers all the time, you're having to deal with a lot of different moving pieces on each trailer. Tires, hubs, tire inflation systems, and a whole lot of different things, lights, landing gear, all of that. But the most common things that you're going to have problems with is your tire inflation systems, and whether or not you even have one on your trailer, because if you don't, then you're going to need to carry a 50 to 60 foot air hose that can hook up to your glad hand on your tractor so that you can air up your trailer tires. So in this video, I am going to describe the different types of setups that Swift has on their dry van trailers and their reefer trailers. But there's two different types of tire inflation systems. And then I'm also going to show you guys my my air hose and my air chuck that I use to air up trailer tires and tractor tires. So you can buy an air hose that's about 60 feet long. You can pick them up at the truck stops, and you can hook that up to the red service line on the back of your tractor and hook that up and push your red trailer valve in, and you have up to 125 psi to air up any tires that you need to air up. So in this video, I'm going to describe the different pieces, the different parts, and the different fittings that you'll see on these trailers. And this video is going to be showing you different problems that you might run into, and how to keep going if you have certain problems, but might save you time, be able to get you down the road, and be able to get you to a service station or shop or somewhere where you can get the problems fixed. You don't always have to call Road Breakdown to come out and fix every little issue that you have with tires. With these tips and tricks that I'm going to show you in this video, I'm going to show you how to manually air up tires when you have a problem with the tire inflation system. And I'm going to describe the tire inflation system itself, the different parts, the problems that you can have, and how to avoid those problems and how to keep trucking. So stay tuned. So I wanted to take a couple minutes and show you guys my air chuck and hose that I keep in my side box. So this is about 65 feet long. It has an air chuck on the one end, and then this end hooks up to the red airline on the glad hand on the back of the trailer. So I wind this out, and then that hooks into that, and then you glad hand them together. When you go back to your truck and push in your red air valve, and you have about 125 pounds of pressure to reinflate any low tires that you may have. I will add that if you are inflating your tires, you have about 100 to 130 psi here. But you got to remember that the tractor will go down to a certain point and then it'll stop inflating. So your kick-on pressure is usually about 100 pounds, and then your kick-off pressure, your kick-out is about 125, relatively somewhere right in there. So if you're trying to do your steer tires and you're wanting to pump them up to about 123, 125 pounds, then what you'll need to do is when you're holding the air chuck on your steer tires, you'll get to about 110, 115, sometimes 120, and it'll stop inflating. So then what you'll need to do is come into the tractor and feather your brakes until you get the gauge to go back down to 100 psi, and then it'll kick the compressor back on. And then you'll go back to your tire that you're inflating and start reinflating it again as the compressor is running. You may have to do that several times in order to get your tires up to 123, 125. I personally run my steer tires at 123 to 125 because that's what it calls for. I run all my drives at about 115 to 120, and I run my steer tires at 123 to 125 psi, because the more that you're able to inflate the less sidewall flex you'll have in your tires, and the less energy you will lose from the sidewall flex. It's called rolling resistance. So the more you inflate your tires up, it'll be a little bit rougher ride on the truck, but you'll get better MPG and fuel economy because of less sidewall flex. So that's the rundown on the air gauge and hose and tire chuck. That particular hose I bought at a truck stop. It came with a air chuck blower nozzle, but unfortunately I lost that when I was moving trucks. I left it behind the driver's seat. But that hose, you hook it up to the red air line on the tractor, and then, like I said, you've got 125, 130 pounds of pressure that you can use to air up any of your tires. It'll save you downtime. It'll save you money, and it'll save the company money that you drive for. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're here to put down miles. And so if you're having a problem with those tire inflation systems, you just shut them off, hook up that air line, air your tires up, and roll. Keep on rolling, keep on trucking. And if you have a flat tire, you can just make sure the system's on, make sure everything's good, make sure you don't have any major air leaks in your tire. But like if you have a screw in there and it's flat, you can air it back up and you can roll it to a shop and you can get that tire patched, get it fixed. With all of these hints, tips, and tricks, it should keep you rolling down the road. And like I said, these tire inflation systems are designed to keep you running and to get you to a shop without having to stop and call road service and be shut down because you need air in your tires. So hopefully you found this helpful. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about how to identify whether or not you have a tire inflation system on your trailer. So up there's a little light. That's a warning indicator light for your tire inflation system. Usually the only way that you can tell whether it has one or not is 9 times out of 10 they'll have a light on there, but you'll see these hoses hooking up to your hubs. And I'll have to walk around to the other side and show you underneath the trailer to show you the box and show you how it works. So if you are walking around your trailer and you see these hoses, that means that you do have the tire inflation system. So the first step is going to be to hook up your red air line and your blue air line to your trailers, and you want to supply the trailer with air by pushing in your red air valve. That supplies the system with air, because if you don't push in the red air valve, it won't supply the trailer with air. So it'll go from the front of the truck and it'll come all the way back through these lines right here. And then it goes to this distribution box. On these distribution boxes, the first thing that you need to do is make sure that this valve is open and not closed. So that's closed and that's open. And you can hear it making that sound. If it's making that sound, it means that the system has a leak. If it has a leak, it doesn't always mean that you're gonna have to shut down or you're gonna have to get something fixed right away. You'll want to try to identify where the leak is. But what happens in here is you have a valve on the inlet side and a valve on the outlet side. So on this particular unit, you can shut air off on the inlet side and the outlet side. So what happens with these green lines, you can see the green lines going down and splitting off. One comes to this front axle, and as you can see, it goes into the axle and pressurizes inside the axle. So that sends air out to both sides. You'll have one on the front and one on the back. So that's the basics of the underneath the trailer and what it looks like. These lines can get holes in them from chafing and rubbing. So if you have an air leak, one of these little lines can be leaking, so that's one thing to check for. Another thing that can be leaking is these little guys right here can be leaking as well. And this is kind of cool because it's missing these little pieces of glass that you can see down in here. So there's a little stem that goes inside, and there's a tube inside there that holds the air. This goes in, air comes through this stem and splits out and goes into each wheel. So these hoses here can get chafed from rubbing on the rim, so you can get little holes inside these lines as well. And then these fittings can loosen up, and if they loosen up, they can leak. And these fittings right here can loosen up and start leaking. There's two different types of fittings that these can come with. This one is not a T fitting. Well, it is a T fitting, but this one only has these two corresponding fittings on there. There's another trailer next door to this one that I'll show you where it has a three-way that you can check the pressure manually with the tire pressure gauge. If you carry a pair of pliers with you, you can twist this off. If you're having a problem with the tire inflation system, you can turn it off. And if you turn it off, you can still run the system and air up and check your tires manually. You'll just have to pull the hose off, and right here is a valve stem, just like you have on the tire. So you can check this with a gauge, and you can also air up the tire manually with a air chuck and hose if you have one on your truck. So that's what I had to do with the last one that I picked up, because it was missing one of these stems. And so I pulled off all of these hoses and checked all the tires. It had 2 flat tires. And so I had to air up the 2 flat tires to get it here to the shop so that I can get it into the shop and get it fixed. So I used to think that you had to take these hoses completely off, but you don't. You can actually just unscrew them, pull them out, and check them with the tire pressure gauge, and you can actually air them up and then just stick these back on and tighten them back down. These have check valves, so once you air them up to 95 to 110 psi, when you screw these back together, as long as your tire's not leaking, it will hold that pressure. Oh, well, I was going to show you on a different trailer the different type of connectors, but somebody took off with that trailer just now. Let's see if I can find another one. Oh, here we go. Here's one that has the little quick checks. So this is another style that you'll see. These have the quick checks where you can just stick it with the tire pressure gauge on each tire location. That one's kind of turned the wrong way, but you get the idea. You can check that real quick with the tire pressure gauge and make sure that it's good on air. So, again, to summarize, if you have problems, you can just shut the system off and you can manually check the pressures. Sometimes you'll have to carry pliers in order to get those fittings loose so that you can manually check them. And the quick way to identify whether you have a tire inflation system on the trailer is to look for those hoses. And there's a lot of issues that can come up with these systems and a lot of things that can go wrong. Since there's a lot of plastic hoses, fittings, and everything else, there's quite a lot of different opportunities for your tires to leak. And of course, this one does not have a tire inflation system. Nor does it have any way to really see how much lubricant is inside your axles. So, your hubs, a quick way to make sure that your hubs are okay is to do a temperature check when you do your fuel stops and pit stops. Quite simply, what I do when I do my quick walk-arounds is I just put my hand on the tire to see. I would check them both to make sure they're not getting hot. If they're getting hot, then that very quickly tells you that you might have a low tire. And then you can touch the rim here and then slowly work your hands in and then eventually touch the hub. I will have to warn you against just willy-nilly touching the hubs, because if these hubs do run out of oil, they will get red hot and you can burn yourself. So that's why when I do my quick checks, I will check the tire and then I will touch the rim here, and I will slowly work my hand in before I touch the hub, because if these hubs dry out, they will get extremely hot. So that's a quick way to double check your hubs. And a really easy way to tell if they're leaking is you'll start to see seeping like this. Seeping like this is okay. Normally that's nothing to worry about. That's just, you know, weeping and seeping where oil or grease is starting to slowly work its way out. But when you start seeing grease come out from this right here, it'll start spraying on the rim. And so if you start seeing black grease and stuff like that collect on the rim, then you'll know that you have a leaking hub. And again, this one is weeping, but it's not leaking. And I don't know what happened to this one in particular. I think it's kind of neat that you can see in there. But just a quick way to know that your outer hub seal is bad is it will have grease all over the rim. Or oil, depending on if you're running oil or grease. If you do end up getting a flat tire, as long as the tire does not come off the bead, you can turn the system on, make sure that you have air going to the system, and if you start driving at about 55-60 miles an hour, you can actually reinflate the tires. That's one cool thing about these tire inflation systems is the centrifugal force. While you're driving, will push the tire back out, and it will actually a lot of times rebead the tire and air it all the way back up. So again, if you have a flat, you can drive on it and air it back up. You'll need to stop and check it about 25 minutes into your drive to see if it did bead back up and did reinflate. But that's one cool, really cool thing about the tire inflation system is they're designed to keep your air in the tire even with an object in the tire, and it can also rebead a flat tire, which is really cool. If you're pre-tripping a trailer and you see that white light come on, it's normal for it to come on because these tire inflation systems do leak down because the trailers sit for a long time. And any little leak inside the system can slowly drain the tires down. And so when you're doing your pre-trip, you hook everything up, you supply the system with air, you'll hear a whining sound coming from the tire inflation system, and that light will come on. Now normally, by the time you get done with your pre-trip and your loaded call and everything else, about 20 minutes later, that light should go out. And sometimes you have to get on the road and start driving and just keep an eye on it. And sometimes within 30 minutes it'll go out. It just kind of depends on how long it takes to air up those tires, because you got to remember there's 8 tires back there, so that's a lot of air that you have to reinflate into your system if they're low. So that's pretty much going to cover the tire inflation systems. If you guys have any questions, particular questions, don't hesitate to ask your question down in the comments, and I will answer it as soon as I see it or get a chance to respond. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and share. And as always, thanks for watching, and God bless you all.